Octave 47, and today our theme of exploration, ego. Before we dive into the topic of ego, it's important to understand why we are bringing you this topic at this point of time, given the third dimension to fifth dimension split of the Earth's timelines happening by the year 2050 of your time, and the nature of events that are about to unravel within the next couple of years here on Earth. It's important to understand various aspects of what we call the ego in order to aid humanity with the transcendence and transformation of the ego from third dimension to fifth dimension. This will be one of the fundamental factors for the 5D ascension of humanity. We begin. Everyone's got one. Ego is nothing but sense of self. It's a tool to hold the perspective, to observe a life form in lower dimensions from the fifth dimension, mostly in the third. If you're here, you got one. The discrete existence of ego is found only in the fifth dimension or below. It dissociates due to the influence of oneness above the fifth dimension. It's a must tool to explore any reality or theme in the third dimension. Ego sets are chosen by collectives as a tool, or filter, or lens for experience, and used by souls as per their grading or prior experience, or the stage of growth they are in through subscription. Ego built via the belief systems imposed upon you by a third dimensional matrix and modified by you as per your birth chart, chosen by your soul, is your personal mask or looking glass to observe life with. Ego, just like any other tool such as a knife, pen, gun, AI, or software, it can be used to have a certain experience of sort, positive or negative, depending on how it's used and who's using it. Very much like a knife, ego too has some parts, mostly human beliefs, thoughts, ideas, etc., mostly generated via a third dimensional matrix that your soul subscribed to, born into, or take part in. This tool, however, can be turned and changed through changing beliefs, mindsets, thoughts, just like a knife can be, by changing the features of its parts. Despite how the matrix defines it for you, you are not your ego. You are a soul first, whose ego is very minimal, due to easy connection with higher dimensions of oneness. You hold or observe an ego in each dimension. You as a human being has an ego, which is I am Sam, a man, a Christian, a Republican, a father, a carpenter, or I love to fish, etc. You as a soul in the fifth dimension have an ego as well, which is much more simplistic. As a human being, your natural frequency and what energies you are channeling through you will depend on the ego and will affect your health and other features of beingness. Having a flexible ego will help you in all possible ways. Your soul chooses an ego as per a certain set of goals or challenges to achieve in a lifetime, very much like you playing a game as a character. In one game you will be Sam, and Bianca in another. In order to feel the essence of the game you are playing now, you have to forget who you were in other games to make the most of it. Otherwise it can cause interference. Depending on the choice of the soul, a stronger ego can help you or not so much, depending on what part of the 3D matrix the soul chooses to explore and its mission in the timeline. Having a strong ego, on the other hand, often can lead to hindrance or slow growth of soul through life experience due to chances of getting stuck in one set of experience and thereby exploring quite smaller range of experiences in a lifetime. Upon the co-agreement between the third dimensional you, or incarnated version of you, and your soul aspect, you can trigger an ego death through a tower moment, which is one of the worst feelings ever. Ego death feels like hell for the ego, since its perspective is limited within the lifetime. But for the soul, it's exciting, for it knows a new and better ego awaits, and it's about to receive an upgrade. More the number of ego deaths, more lifetimes can be observed in one lifetime, and higher are the upgrades of a soul at the other end of them. Most ascended masters usually go through suffering for the same reason. The 3D ego can be generalized as a looking glass or the attire you are wearing while walking. Your looking glass can have many filters, and you could be wearing various kinds of dresses. Filters on looking glasses are similar to your belief systems, put on by the 3D matrix, and some changed by you or your intuition through the soul's guidance or by other beings. For example, some filters on the glass helps you read English and blocks all other languages. Some helps you see different colors, some black and white only, some makes you see religion as everything, etc. This collection of filters forming your ego will help you observe a human life where you see culture, religion, God, ideas, society, people, animals, way of life, etc. in your own way. If you don't have any filter on, you see everything all at once, same as the source, which in this limited third-dimensional perspective can feel like too much, and if you have too many filters on, you may see nothing. Stronger ego means stronger opinions, beliefs, and mindsets, which if are based on lower frequencies such as hate, doubt, fear, anger, etc., will feel tiresome. Belief systems could be like clothings. Sometimes you wear jeans, sometimes silk clothes, sometimes jackets, etc. But if you wear too much heavy clothing, it can be tiresome to run or walk in them. How strong your ego is can very easily decide how much high frequency or low frequency you can be holding at any given point, depending on what your belief systems are. Beings with a less strong ego will naturally have higher chances of holding high frequencies due to less dampening of the soul frequencies channeled through them. Some of the beings capable of holding higher frequencies are kids, babies, old people, people with physical disabilities, and animals. The ego is a temporary identity built for experiences in different third-dimensional forms. Ego frames are already fixed in terms of blueprints for souls to choose from. Deep dive into the aspects of ego. Ego as a dimensional tool. The ego is described as a construct that exists primarily in the lower dimensions, such as the third dimension to fourth dimension. Beyond those levels, as in fifth dimension and above, where experiences of unity or oneness dominate, the ego naturally dissolves because separation is no longer needed to have an experience. However, within the third dimensional reality, the ego is essential. It allows an individual to explore a specific life theme, personality, and storyline. Although the ego is necessary, it is not fixed. It can be adjusted and refined through changes in beliefs, thought patterns, and mindsets. Just as a physical tool can be redesigned to perform better, the ego can also be reshaped to support healthier and more flexible experiences in a lifetime. Ego as a tool and lens. Like any tool, such as a knife, pen, or software, the ego itself is neutral. Its impact depends on how it is used and who is using it. It can support constructive experiences or create unnecessary struggle depending on the intention behind it. The ego functions as a lens or mask through which life is perceived. This lens is shaped by belief systems influenced by the society, culture, and collective structures, as well as by personal choices and inner guidance. At a larger scale, collective consciousness groups are described as ego sets for the soul to choose from in order to explore particular experiences. This could be the identity themes such as gender, nation, religion, hobby, occupation, etc., available within the third-dimensional matrix. Souls then engage with these sets based on their stage of growth and the lesson they intend to explore in a lifetime. Ego, energy, and well-being. The ego influences how energy flows through a human being. Beliefs, identity, and self-concept shape emotional states, physical health, and overall balance. A flexible ego allows higher quality states such as openness, clarity, and adaptability, while a rigid ego can create resistance and stress. Each dimension has its own version of ego. In the third dimension, the ego includes labels such as name, gender, profession, beliefs, and social identity. In higher dimensions, on the other hand, the ego still exists, but is much simpler, holding only minimal distinction rather than complex personal stories in separation and contrast with everything and everyone. Filters, identity, and perception. Every being in lower dimensions has an ego, which is nothing but a sense of self. This sense of self allows a perspective to exist. Without it, individual experience would not be possible. The ego can be compared to clothing or a pair of glasses, both of which shape how the world is encountered. Beliefs act like filters on these glasses. Some filters allow certain experiences while blocking others. For example, one filter may emphasize religion, another culture, and another logic or emotion. These filters determine how reality is interpreted. If there are no filters at all, perception becomes overwhelming because everything is experienced all at once. If there are too many filters, on the other hand, perception becomes narrow or distorted. Balance is the key. Ego as a character selection. The soul chooses an ego much like a player chooses a character in a game. Each lifetime offers a different role, name, personality, and challenge set. One life may involve being one kind of person, while another life involves a completely different identity. The ego is simply the interface through which soul interacts with a specific environment. However, a very rigid or overly strong ego can slow down soul growth. When someone becomes overly attached to one identity or belief system, they may limit the range of experiences available to them in a lifetime. Flexibility allows for broader learning and faster growth of the soul. You are not the ego. Despite how society or systems may define identity, the truth of reality emphasizes that you are not your ego. You are fundamentally a soul, and the ego is simply a temporary interface. Since the soul is more connected to higher states of unity, its own sense of ego is very light or nearly absent. Your ego is made up of components such as beliefs, ideas, values, and assumptions. Many of these are inherited from cultural systems or environments, while others are modified through personal experience and intuition. Strength of ego and soul purpose. A stronger ego is not automatically good or bad. Its usefulness depends on the kind of experiences the soul has chosen to explore. In some life paths, a strong sense of self may help achieve certain goals. In others, on the other hand, it may limit growth by keeping the individual stuck in one perspective for too long. To fully experience the life you are currently living, a level of forgetting about your other lives as a soul is necessary. If memories or identities from other games or lifetimes were fully accessible, they could interfere with immersion in the present experience. Forgetting is therefore not a flaw, but a feature that allows deeper engagement with the current incarnated lifetime of the soul. Ego strength and emotional load. A stronger ego often leads to stronger opinions and attachments. When these are rooted in emotions such as fear, anger, or hatred, or other negative frequencies, they can feel exhausting to maintain. This is similar to wearing heavy clothing that restricts movement. Too many clothing on you can weigh you down as well, making you unable to run. Same way, too many strong beliefs make the ego heavy or stronger in a negative way, limiting the ways of life. The strength and structure of the ego directly influence how much emotional or energetic intensity a person can hold. A lighter or more adaptable ego allows higher quality emotional states to flow more easily and experience a free state of being. Holding higher frequencies. Beings with less rigid egos often hold calmer and more open states of awareness. Children and babies have underdeveloped egos, allowing greater openness and creativity. Older individuals, on the other hand, may have softened egos through experiences or lessons of life. Animals have very minimal third-dimensional egos due to lack of third-dimensional matrix-based beliefs or conditioning, which keeps them naturally aligned with present moment awareness. In this view, reducing rigidity does not mean losing identity, but allowing it to evolve. A flexible ego becomes a supportive tool rather than a limiting structure, helping the soul express itself more clearly within the human experience. The ego's true purpose. The ego is not an enemy, it's a focusing mechanism. Its job is to create the experience of being a separate individual in physical reality. Without ego, you wouldn't have the contrast needed to explore yourself as you within space and time. The ego and the higher mind. The mechanics of physical consciousness is a triad, where higher mind sends inspiration, guidance, and excitement. The ego or personality mind in the third dimension interprets and experiences those impulses, and the physical body acts them out in third dimensional reality. The problem isn't the ego itself, but when it tries to take over the higher mind's job in order to control outcomes to third dimensional matrix-based beliefs and expectations. That's when it creates fear, doubt, or resistance, forgetting that it's always being guided. Ego and negative beliefs. The ego expresses the beliefs you feed it. If you hold negative beliefs, the ego will act as the defender of limitation, keeping you safe inside old patterns, since all negative frequencies represent separation from the source. If you hold positive beliefs, the ego will act as the champion of your expansion, since all positive frequencies represent unity with the source. Henceforth, the ego is neutral. It just runs the program you have installed or have been installed into you at birth, through schooling, parenting, or other conditioning within the third dimensional matrix. Balancing the ego. You don't need to kill or transcend the ego. That idea itself is a negative belief. Instead, you align the ego with the higher mind, letting it function as an ally. When balanced, the ego becomes a translator of inspiration into action instead of a gatekeeper of fear. The fifth dimensional shift and the ego. In third dimension, the ego tends to dominate, creating struggle and identity attachment. In the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension, the ego is still there, but it's in harmony with the higher mind. The personality no longer resists the flow of excitement and life feels effortless. In conclusion, the ego itself is not bad, it's simply a tool. It is the lens of individuality. When aligned with the higher mind, it becomes your greatest ally in creating joyful experiences. The challenge is not to destroy it, but to train it to serve inspiration and not fear. And that concludes our today's exploration. Our gratitude for your participation in the ascension journey of humanity. Feel free to like and subscribe to find similar videos in the future. Check out our videos from the Universe Unlocked series in the description. Comment here if you need more clarity on anything. Search for any specific topic that might interest or concern you. And remember to keep exploring. Until next time, 47, logging out.